What's going on YouTube? OCD for EDC here. And what I got for your face balls today is the full review of this gorgeous knife right here. This is the Tepe Designs Hornet 2. And as you can see, I've got some painter's tape on the blade right here. And most of you probably already know what this means. And this means that I just got done doing some cut testing. And so I taped off a 1-inch section of the blade. And let me show you here. Here is the second basket of cardboard that I got done that's going into the garbage. But anyway, so we're going to talk about the test results here, which actually exceeded my expectations, because if you guys haven't seen, I actually sent this knife off to Kurt at JCool G19-2, and he did HRC testing on this guy. And so it didn't test bad, but it wasn't quite as hard as I would have liked to have seen it. However, yeah, it did well, but we'll get into that here in just a little bit. So what we got here is the Tepe Designs Hornet 2. Of course, you can see it is absolutely stunning carbon fiber scales. You got this gorgeous titanium, it's contoured titanium pocket clip with a ceramic ball that actually rolls, which is super cool. You got this really nice blade opening hole there that works perfectly for spider flicking and thumb. It's gorgeous. And then of course you have a flipper tab as well. Action on this guy is absolutely stellar. You can see here it just drops right down, no wiggles or anything. It's just absolutely gorgeous. No blade play, no lock rock. Gorgeous knife, beautifully constructed. You can see the stone wash finish on that blade, just really nicely done. You got this top swedge here, and then these two kind of points that I guess really just there for aesthetic value, but it really just a really beautiful blade. And the blade's pretty much all belly, and just it's just absolutely gorgeous, and I love it. This is a knife that I'm super impressed with. So let's get into this. We're going to start off with a few size comparisons, just to refresh your memory of what size of knife this is. So that is the Benchmade Super Freak. Here it is against the Spyderco Manix 2. So you can see there we're looking at a pretty good size knife. Here it is with the Spyderco Native Chief. So the Native Chief has it by a little bit there, but that's really due to the forward choil on the Native Chief. And here it is against the Cold Steel 8015. So you can see we're talking about a pretty good sized knife. And I do have one other knife from Tepe Designs. This is actually a collaboration. This has been my EDC the last couple of days. This happens to be the TwoSun 177. And you can see mine here is number 21. This one's in M390 blade steel. And you got the TwoSun logo, of course, on this side. And this is called the 177 Maverick. And it's a gorgeous knife, and definitely be reviews coming on this guy. But as for right now, I'm just carrying it. You can see there we've got the Tepe logo and the Night Morning Design logo. So this is another knife that you can get on Tepe's website, which I will link that information in the description below. You can pick this knife up right now on his website for $150, which is a beautiful price for this particular knife. And this Hornet 2, you can pre-order this knife for $225 right now on his website. So like I said, all the information will be in the description below. If you want to check it out, it is Tepe Designs at bigcartel.com. And you can see all of Tepe's work on that website, and he's got some beautiful stuff. He's also got the Killage, which is another gorgeous, gorgeous knife made by the same factory as this Hornet 2. So, size of this guy, we're just going to run down the dimensions really quick. I do have a couple other videos out on this guy. I did do a disassembly, which I'm not going to do in this video, but I did a disassembly on this knife. And so you can go scroll back through my video history. It was maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, something like that. So you can check it out and see the full disassembly of this knife and all of its parts and pieces. It's definitely a good one. So if you're at all interested in the Hornet 2, definitely go and check out that video. And I go over all the construction in pretty great detail. So really, as from a construction standpoint, the only thing that I think that it was kind of missing is a detent ball ramp. But I also have a video out there showing you how to put a detent ball ramp in the knife. And yeah, pretty simple to do. But it's not, you know, I'm really nitpicking when I say that, because the blade gets up on the detent ball really quickly. So I'll show you here where that is. So right there, it's hitting the detent ball. So right there is where the blade's up on the detent ball. So, you know, it's not one that you have to have at 90 degrees before the blade tangs up on the detent ball. So, yeah, it's definitely a gorgeous knife. So, dimensions. You're looking at an overall length of 8 7/8 inches. So just shy of 9-inch overall. You have a true 4 inches of cutting edge here, which is fantastic. You got a handle length right at 5 inches to this point right here. You got a blade length from that point to the tip of 3 7/8. You've got a handle thickness of just under 6/10 of an inch. It actually measures 580 thousandths or 0.58. You got a blade stock thickness of 157 thousandths. Which is just shy of 4 millimeters. You've got a handle height that ranges from its smallest area, right in this region here, being 8/10 of an inch. And then it goes up to about an inch. You know, you've got kind of this area here where it kind of ranges a little bit. So the smallest area is 8/10 of an inch. But because of its thickness, it's really good in hand. This thing, it's one of the most ergonomic knives I've ever had in my hands. And for those that don't know, I have some big ass hands, and this thing works extremely well. I mean, that's a 5-inch handle, and yeah, so it's a great knife in hand without a doubt. Blade height, you've got 1.465 inches from this tip right here to the cutting edge, and in the pocket you've got a little over 1.5 inches. Compare it to, you know, some Spyderco stuff. If you look at it, you know, it's smaller in the pocket this direction here than a Manix 2. And actually, for how much bigger the blade is, you can see that this thing really kind of fits completely within the silhouette of the Manix 2. It is just slightly longer, but if you look, there's no comparison blade wise. Yeah, look at that. Huge difference in blade. But so you just got a really great ratio here, blade to handle ratio. If you look at the, yeah, you can see there, you know, the Hornet's sticking up over that guy, you know, I don't know what, not even 1/4 of an inch. So pretty stellar, really compact in the pocket for a knife of this size, and it carries extremely well. Behind the edge thickness, it ranges a little bit. In its thinnest is right out here in the kind of the center of the belly. It's about 16 thousandths, and at its thickest point, it's right at 19 thousandths. So that's kind of the range. And for a big knife, you don't have a full flat grind, but I'd say it's about 3/4 flat grind. So from this line right here that goes all the way up, you got a nice flat grind. And you do have a nice sharpening choil back here, and they did do it correctly. You can see the light reflect in there. You don't have a smile at the back of the blade, which is really, really nice. So Let's get the scale out here and weigh this guy up. So for a knife that has a true 4-inch cutting edge, you are looking at right just over 4 ounces, not even 4.1. So it doesn't get much better than that, guys. I don't know of another knife that is that size, with a true 4-inch cutting edge that is right around the 4-ounce mark. I'm sure there's one out there. I'm just not aware. Like the Native Chief, for example, it's pretty light as well. It's actually under 4, but but you don't have 4 inches of cutting edge here. Line up the cutting edge. See the difference there? So you get a lot more cutting edge on the Hornet than you do on the Native Chief. So the Native Chief is certainly a lightweight knife, but just you don't have the same sort of cutting edge. Other really stellar things about this knife, like I said, the ergos and the grip is just fantastic. The construction, gorgeous, simple, it's beautiful, super easy to take it apart. You do have a little lanyard hole back here, with a little post that sets into the carbon, and these are full carbon fiber scales. You can see the carbon on the inside there. Like I said, go back and check out the video where I disassemble this knife. It's just beautifully made. The carbon fiber is absolutely gorgeous. You have these milled lines here, and then you've got the milled line continues between the holes. You got those 3 speed holes, and they have a big chamfer to them. The scales are also contoured. And of course, blade centering, absolutely perfect. It's in there like swimwear. Just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful knife. The stone wash, I've got some dirt on this guy, some tape residue. But, so I just got done cutting hundreds of feet of cardboard with this thing. And you can see that stone wash just looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, you can see where I just need to clean it off. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, it just needs to be cleaned up. But action, deployment, really, I just don't have anything negative to say. So when I was doing the cut testing on this thing, when I very first started cutting with it, although it was very comfortable, you got a really nice thumb ramp up here with some nice meaningful jimping, which is really fantastic. You got dual row ceramic ball bearings. Of course, it's a liner lock. And I have heard a few people say that theirs was early lockup. And I think a lot of that is kind of just an illusion, because I thought this one was early lockup as well when I first got it. But as you can see, you've got the entire thickness of the liner, but because the liner is black against the carbon, it can look kind of weird and look like it's pretty early when you first take a look at it. But if you look really close and look through the knife, you can see that you have the whole thickness of the liner is locking up, and it's not going anywhere. This thing, beautifully made, really, really nice knife. So as I was getting ready to say, when I started doing the cut test, although this knife is fantastic, for ergonomics, super comfortable in hand, I started doing my cut test, and I just felt like I was far back away from my blade. I felt like I wanted a forward choil. Now, you do have this little area here. It's not big enough for me to use as a forward choil, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. But, I mean, you could grab a hold of that flipper tab if you want and kind of pull back on it. But for me, this grip right here is super comfortable. And although it felt a little bit awkward right at first, when I first started cutting the cardboard with this guy, after 50 or so cuts, it felt great. I mean, like I said, I felt like I was a little far back right in the beginning, but that went away very, very quickly, and it was a joy to use. This thing really, really did a nice job of cutting cardboard. For how thick the blade stock is, That's really just right back here. You can see that you have some nice distal taper going on here. And then you also have this swedge. So you do have this area right here that actually, that's pretty much where I was cutting the cardboard, kind of in a position like this. And so let's actually get a measurement of what that blade is in that area right there. So you're looking at, let's call it 130 thousandths right there at that line. And it did a really nice job. It was gliding through cardboard really well. For a big knife, it went through the cardboard like a gem, for sure. So let's get into the cut test. So for those that don't know, I freehand sharpen. So I do sharpen with diamond stones, and I sharpen this guy up to about 1500 grit on diamond stones, and then I go to a strop. Now, through my testing, I used to sharpen everything around 15 degrees per side, and I have since switched that up, although the 15 degrees per side is beautiful for cutting thin stuff like paper and that sort of thing. I just realized that my edges weren't holding up as long as I would like them to. So a while ago, I switched it up and started doing everything around 17 or 18 degrees per side. And that has certainly helped the edges be a lot more stable. And so I don't know if that has something to do with this, but anyway, we're going to run down the numbers. So like I said, this was sharpened with, up to about 1500 grit on diamond stones, and you can see how thin this is behind the edge by the size of that secondary bevel there. And, it's not a mirrored polished edge or anything like that. It's just a really, really good working edge. And it did beautifully. So I did 2 tests with this guy. And I'm going to give you 2 numbers, fine edge and working edge. And the fine edge is when the knife will no longer cut arm hair. As you can see, I'm missing a bunch of arm hair. So when the test will no longer cut arm hair, that's the fine edge. And then when the test will no longer but cut reliably through a held sheet of printer paper, that's the working edge. So test number 1, we got 161 foot or 161.2 feet fine edge, and working edge for test number 1 was 378.4 feet. So this is one of the best M390 knives I have ever tested. And even though the Rockwell numbers were a little bit low, it was just shy of 59, I think, Kurt. And we also tested right back here at the pivot because I didn't want the divots to be visible. So both divots are underneath the scales, so you just can't see them. But anyway, so this thing tested, I think it was 58.6. I think he did 2 tests. I think it was 58.3 and 58.6. And I just really was not expecting it to do that well, honestly. Now, I did sharpen it quite a bit on that first edge, because it had the factory edge. And I took off quite a bit of material on that first sharpening just to get, back past any sort of retained austenite or anything like that may have been there from the original belt grinding. And so, yeah, I did take off quite a bit of material, but so 161.2 foot fine edge and 378.4 feet working edge. And then test number 2 was almost identical. I got 168.6 feet fine edge and 380 feet, or actually it was 380.6 feet working edge. So, on the working edge, we only had a difference of basically 2 feet, and it was actually 2.2 feet. But yeah, so I called it there that this thing, the test was repeatable, and so I'm happy with that. And I was really ecstatic with those results. It's just better than I expected it to be. I've tested some M390 that, did barely over 100 foot. Some of it felt super gummy on the stones, and this stuff did not. I kind of expected it to be like that, but it really wasn't. It felt really, really good. I was really super impressed with this blade. This is out of all the M390 that I personally have got to handle and sharpen. This felt the best on the stones to me. When I started sharpening this thing, I was a little bit encouraged by it. And when I started cutting with it, I was really encouraged by it, those numbers. So anyway, I still think that there is room for improvement for sure. I think if you look at the composition of M390, it should, if it's done extremely well, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be up there, a high 400s or even 500-foot working edge. And I'm sure that there's a knife out there if we, got something from Triple B that was ground extremely well and heat treated and cryoed perfectly. It may even do better than that. I don't know. But out of the ones that I have handled, and Gerald does a lot of cut testing at Outpost 76. He actually has a couple of my knives in M390, or one at least. And, even though it actually Rockwelled better than this, the Rockwell number was higher, but the test results were not even in the ballpark of this guy. So it goes to show you that Rockwell isn't everything. And you can have something that's really, really hard, but if it's not tempered or cryoed and all that sort of stuff correctly, it's not going to hold up, or the edge could be brittle, or if it's too soft, the edge can roll. I mean, there's a ton of factors involved in this, but for 58.6 Rockwell M390, this thing was super impressive. Way better than I expected, and way better than some other knives that I've seen that have Rockwelled right around that same area. So, there has been some standouts that were in that 58 to 59 range that did really, really well. And there's been a few standouts here and there, and this one was a standout. So, Sean, the other thing that's really awesome about this deal is, guys, if you don't know Tepe Designs, you definitely need to check his stuff out online. My experience having this knife, this was loaned to me by Sean Hassan, the owner of Tepe Designs, and I'm extremely thankful that he loaned it to me. And I hit him up and I said, hey, do you mind if we check the Rockwell on this thing? And he immediately got back to me and said, nope, that's no problem at all. And I was really surprised by that, and I was encouraged by that. And then when the results were not as promising as what we hoped for, I contacted him and I said, hey, the test results they weren't horrible, but they weren't stellar. And he said, nope, I want you to put it out there. And I gave him the option. I told him, hey, if you don't want that info out there, I understand. And he said, nope, we're going to work on it. And we're going to, for the actual production run, we're going to make it right, because this is a pre-production model. But yeah, so he wanted the feedback, and he was just really, it just could not have been better to work with. It was really fantastic, and it really showed me what kind of a guy Sean Hassan is. And I just don't have enough good things to say about the man. He's been really, really great to me, and I am infinitely appreciative of everything that he's done. And his designs are beautiful. So, guys, if you have any interest in this knife at all, personally, I think you should buy from him, just because he's such a good guy, and I just want to support people like that. So anyway, go to his website. Like I said, all the info will be up in the description. Go to his website, check him out. All the knives are going to be there. He's got models. If you can't afford this model at $225, I totally understand. You can get the little brother to this model, and it is called the Hornet, and this one is the Hornet 2. He's got it in multiple different configurations and colors and different steels. There's a budget version, there's a higher end version, and then he also has the Killage that you can get in S35VN or in Damascus. I mean, there's some gorgeous knives on there that you can pick up. You can pre-order some are in stock, and you can also get the TS-177 Maverick right there on his website. So guys, Like I said, I'm going to put all the information down below. Check him out. Support Sean. He's a great guy and just a fantastic part of our community. And so, I definitely want to show him all the love and support that he deserves. So, anyway, guys, thanks so much for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next time. Oh, real quick, by the way, we will be doing another live video this Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. My wife and I will be going live, and we got some good topics to talk about this weekend. So should be pretty interesting. Should be a fun time. So if you can be there, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday evening. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.